Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be on this beautiful earth. It may not feel like it right now, but it is. And I want to welcome everyone back to episode 2, the second installment of Savoir Faire, the musings of an introvert that found her voice. Today, I am very honored to have a longtime friend of mine as a guest on what does Wendy Williams say, co-host
Yes.
on the episode, the wonderful Tamera Crenshaw,
Yay.
Springfield, Massachusetts. She is a clinical therapist, and I invited her on because I thought, number one, not only is she a boss lady, so she's a poster for entrepreneurship, but as of right now and just going forward with everything that's happening, in the country and in the world, I just want her to shed some light on how good it is for us to take care of our mental and emotional health. First, I'll let her introduce herself, and then we can go into a few more questions. All right.
Hi, I loved it. I love the intro. So as you said, my name is Tamera Crenshaw, and I am a licensed mental health counselor for the state of Massachusetts, and I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state of Connecticut. And so pretty much what that means is that I am able to have a private practice and see clients on my own. And as you indicated, I do work for myself, which has been a blessing and a wonderful experience and journey. And I also teach a graduate level class at Westfield State University. So I'm always trying to find a second hustle, a part-time, gig, and just honestly though, just give back. And I love to work with other people. I love to pass down any knowledge I have. And so, that's me.
Awesome. So, my question would be to you right now. Not that you can give out any information, but are you seeing an influx and more people coming to you because they feel isolated, not being able to be out as much as they would have been? Like, well, what's going on with people these days that you would recommend for people to really put on the forefront of their mental and emotional health right now with everything happening?
No, good question. So it's interesting. It's before COVID-19, definitely saw an influx of minorities, specifically, I refer to African Americans because that's the group that I identify with, and that's the group that I'm, most passionate about breaking the stigma of mental health. And so prior to COVID-19, huge influx. I mean, to, just the point where even Black men are starting to really reach out and want to engage in therapy. And so I would say that there was an influx before. However, since COVID-19, there are some barriers with new clients, and there has been a drop in intakes kind of universally. I'm in several different like groups or, organizations, and we're all kind of talking about it, and we're noticing that there has been a drop. And I simply think that's because of telehealth is relatively new in a sense. So it's been around for a while. However, as far as like therapy, I think people tend to want that traditional in the office, one-on-one time. And so although we are seeing a drop in numbers, I think it's only a matter of time before we see our increase come back. So once people the biggest, I would say, advertisement for me since I've started doing private practice has always been word of mouth, especially as it relates to our culture. Again, because mental health for African Americans, minorities is so different for, our counterparts, meaning that when I first started, I would see, let's just say my typical demographic is females ages 25 to let's say 50. And so within that, if I break that off into two groups of, we'll just go with white women and Black women. White women had been in therapy for years. Like they would come in and say, Tamera, I've been in therapy since I was 6, since I was 7. Whether it had been a divorce, whether it had been parents kind of forcing to go, they tend to have had a greater experience with it versus Black women that would come in. And often the times I was the first person that they were ever seeing before. And so, so I think that there is a difference. And I think, relating it back to teletherapy, telehealth, and teletherapy as we call it. I think that we'll slowly start to see more intakes happening, but as of right now, it tends to be word of mouth. And so the clients that I already have established, I'm starting to see them go out there and tell, their friends, tell their families, hey, she's still working. You're still able to see someone, whether it be through a video such as we're doing or telephone. And so, yeah, so I'm hoping that we'll get to see some numbers come back up. And then the second part to the question you had kind of asked, one part was the numbers and are we seeing an influx? And the second part you had indicated was, people, anxiety, and how are people addressing, or what, how is their mental health during the COVID-19? And absolutely, although I would say that my intake numbers have dropped, my old clients or clients that had once, terminated, they're coming back. And so I did see an influx of, clients that had moved and we had successfully terminated. I see them reaching out and wanting just a safe space. So you're absolutely right with, we're in unprecedented times, as we've all have heard, since this first happened, and people, their anxieties are up. And I'm sure some of the things that you are familiar with, it's working from home with kids, not working, being laid off, and just all the adjustments of not being able to engage in some of those social privileges that we, took for granted. So I'm definitely seeing people want to prioritize their mental health.
Awesome. So, of course, we know that's good. What advice would you have for stay-at-home parents right now who are trying to work and be school teachers at the same time? Would you say for them to put themselves on the back burner, or what would you say they should do to make sure in a way that they're still keeping themselves first?
It's so difficult, and I feel like it's something that, I'm humbled and blessed that I had the opportunity to experience that. I have a 3-year-old. I'm a single parent. And so, when and as I had indicated to you earlier prior to the interview, it's difficult, especially given what I do. So I say to you is that really, one, knowing that we can't do it all. Like whenever someone comes in and they're having those fears or anxieties and they're like, listen, I'm pulled in all different directions. I'm trying to be a good parent. I'm trying to, give my job, 100%. There's no way possible that you can do that. And everyone's circumstance is different. So I don't want to take for granted that if you have a partner at home, then that's going to look different than not having a partner and being a single parent. Or if you have certain supports, then that's going to look different than someone who doesn't have supports. And so one, I try to tell people to breathe, to know that we can't possibly do it all, that this moment is, hopefully not forever. And so some aspects of your life aren't going to get 100%, and to really find, the peace in that, meaning that for me, just to self-disclose is, again, I'm a single parent. The nature of what I do, I'm not able to be with my daughter all day. Having sessions and seeing sometimes 6 and 7 people back to back in this format, it doesn't allow me to then teach her or, provide a home school in a sense for her. And so I'm blessed to have support, and my parents help me out and they take her. For those folks who can't do that, it's really just acknowledging that, again, this is a short moment. Things will resume. They may not look the same, but eventually we will get back to school. And in the meantime, just really taking the pressure off of yourself, taking that pressure of feeling like you have to be this perfect teacher. And I don't know about for others, but for me, detaching from social media. I know in the beginning, I would watch other people. I would see the news feed. I would see everyone, oh, we're homeschooling. And a lot of my, I'm happy in the sense of a a lot of my friends are teachers. So I was really exposed to my timeline being flooded with people who, I mean, these were teachers at home, homeschooling, like really homeschooling because they were teachers. And I had to realize that that's not going to be me. Like, I just can't. There's no way that I'm able to do that and still, you know, provide for my daughter and engage in my job. And so I had to accept that and detach, kind of not looking to a certain standard, or not, you know, looking to uh, per se how others are doing, really seeing what my home life is going to look like. And so when I have time, I do the things that I would normally do with her, going over her alphabet, or she's 3. So, you know, catering to her needs at her age bracket. And so, yeah, I would say the biggest thing is to really take a deep breath and map out what life right now is going to look like for you, specifically for that individual. And one thing that I'm learning and I'm leaning into doing is really being intentional about this time. Like, I view it as a storm, and within a storm, am I going to lean into it, and am I going to, you know, provide myself some direction, or am I just going to kind of be in a whirlwind and be at, you know, hand to what's given to me? And so I think the biggest thing that I'm trying to encourage clients that I work with to do is to be intentional about this time that we're, you know, while we're in kind of, I heard it referred to as the divine timeout, you know, greater than us. And so I've been encouraging people to, you know, how are you going to be intentional during this divine timeout that we have?
Exactly. The earth needed it, the world needed it,
Yes.
needed it, population needed it.
Absolutely.
I mean, of course, not under these circumstances, of course, but we did need this. So yeah, it's good. And of course,
No, and
I like the way you brought out. I'm sorry, I like
no,
the way
that's
you
okay.
brought out how you were comparing yourself to other parents, and you know, you stopped doing that because everyone does have their strengths and their weaknesses, and
Mm-hmm.
everyone does have a different situation. So it's good for, you know, moms and dads to, you know, realize that, and because comparison is the thief of joy, as they
Absolutely.
say. So yeah, it's really good. And go ahead, what were you going to say? I'm
And
sorry.
just know, just to, you know, add on to that, is that it's difficult because you want to detach, right? And with social media, you want to deplug and not necessarily be so, you know, overwhelmed with it. Do a digital detox. But now we're in a time where everything is digital, right? The way we're communicating, the way we're hosting meetings. So I do, you know, agree with you. It's like there's a balance of when to be plugged in, when not. Even with the news, and I know, you know, a lot of people are aware of it, but how much are you consuming? At some point, it's nice just to turn off the TV, you know, and not to say not to be informed, but to
Right.
get what you need and be intentional about it. So I'm going to allow myself 30 minutes today. I'm going to allow myself an hour today. I'm going to allow myself I just think we're so overwhelmed and consumed with you know, electronics and the digital world right now, that it's good to have a balance.
Yeah. Yeah, because I also think it's just like you said, overwhelmed with the news, and a lot of these self-proclaimed journalists are
Yeah.
these people with their conspiracy theories. It's a bit much.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's good. These are all wonderful, wonderful. I'm learning, and I'm really getting a lot out of this, and I hope that the viewers are too. A quick question for you. Um, did you value your career before COVID-19 as much as you do now? Do you value your career more? Or do you feel the same?
Oh, that's such a good question. And I don't think anyone's asked me that in that way. I think most people, you know, with your support and who you're around, it's like who's working, who's not working, and you're checking in on folks. But haven't heard anyone ask me in that sense. Like, people might have said, "Oh, I'm happy, you know, I'm sure you're glad you do what you do," or "I'm sure work is busy for you." I would say, that I definitely value it. I don't know if more, but in a different way. And I say that because even prior to COVID-19, just watching Black people get involved in mental health. Like there was such great pride and such great, it's such a good time for, African Americans and mental health. Like I've been, licensed and providing therapy since '09. I started a part-time private practice in 2013, and then I went on my own and solely been working for myself since 2016. And so since then, just to watch my clientele and the people that come to me, that always gave me a sense of pride, and I knew that I was doing something that I love. I knew it didn't feel like work, even on my, most stressful days. I never wanted to throw in the towel or felt fatigued or burned out. So I feel like I was always, different in that sense with some of my peers or some of my friends and families, just loving what I do. But definitely, I would say with COVID-19, one, yes, I'm humble that I'm still employed and I'm still able to work and my days are still full. So in that sense, I was absolutely appreciative. But two, I think it to me, what has been most gratifying and what truly reminds me that I love what I do is that I'm really getting to see life through the different lenses of the people that I work with. And that is something that I don't take lightly, and I have such a wide mix of range of people that I work with. So I'll have a teacher, I'll have a lawyer, I'll have someone that, works at Home Depot, works at the grocery store. I'll have, a doctor. I mean, it's just so amazing to get to see life through other people's lenses, and then for them to allow you in and to trust you with that. And so I think that has been something that I'm able to, specifically appreciate during this time, is that during such a crisis, a global pandemic, that people still look forward to talking with me, that people still find value in the dialogue. People still want the support from their therapist. And so that has been, I would say, definitely a humbling reminder of why I love what I do and why I want so desperately for Black people to really realize that mental health treatment is something that is of such value to us, just like having, a healthy diet, just like having your hairdresser, just like having your, your massage therapist, your chiropractor, whoever. I think that having a therapist should be, as equal value as having your doctor or the other services and providers that we utilize.
Right. So question I'm going to ask you: would you recommend this career to any young woman of color, any young woman that may see this and may have had doubts about going into the field? Would you 100% recommend them not to give up on the goal, to keep going?
Absolutely. And so the blessing with, with that and answering that question is that because I do teach on a graduate, college level, people are always asking me, oh, do you love teaching? Are you looking forward to it? And I've had my moments where I prefer to provide individual therapy than I do teaching. Teaching, I don't necessarily think is my ministry. I don't think it's something that I long to do, but the universe, God brought it to me, and it works, and I'm able to. Part of the reason why I continue to do it, and this is my 4th semester teaching, is because when I look out into that classroom, I'm not seeing me. I don't, I had one semester where I had one Black female in the course, and she needed to unfortunately drop out because of her own mental health issues and things that the course was triggering for her. And so I continue to do it because I know that these white students I'm either going to be their only Black professor that they've had, or I'm going to be, one, maybe one of them have had a Black teacher before. And so I do it because I know the importance of, if these are the people that are going to be treating, my nephews, my nieces, my daughters, my, just my people, I want them to see, I want to implant as much as I can about my experience. And so we're the other professor, I teach with someone else, white male, and we teach the same course, whereas he's spending 2 minutes on self-awareness and cultural, competency, I'm spending, 2 to 3 weeks. And so, so yes, so to go back to your question, absolutely. I am starting to see more Black therapists. Like, we definitely are out there, and more in private practice. So I have to say, we are. One of the things that I think worries me and scares me, I think it's like anything that is new and people are just starting to become aware of. So I say that regarding therapy. I think that what I'm finding is that you really have to be self-aware. And people say they're self-aware, they believe they're self-aware, and they're not. And it's hard. I'm not saying that I'm perfect. I know that I definitely take the time to make sure that I'm always reflecting and holding that mirror up to myself. But as a therapist, it's just so important, if you want to help others, if you want to be able to truly take someone on a journey that's going to allow them to uncover a part of themselves that they've never known, you have to be willing to do that, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I actually have I have now 4 therapists that work under me, all women of color. And when I provide supervision, when I'm working with them, I mean, that's the biggest thing that I'm saying to them, is like, you have to be able to hold that mirror up to yourself, because people will call you out on it, or people will sense that, whether it's your weight, whether it's your hair, whether it's, how you're living, your relationship. Not to say that you can't be a good and effective therapist. I'm human. I have things going on in my life. I'm a single parent. So clearly, I haven't necessarily taken traditional paths, but I can talk about it, and I'm not scared to lean into it and own it. And I think that, with young people coming up into this career, women choosing this career, that's the biggest piece of advice that I give them, is that as long as you're willing to go into that place of yourself that you may not feel comfortable with, then you'll be able to service others. But yeah, you have to be willing to lean into, your own stuff. And I was looking at a quote the other day, and it was so good, and I had reposted, and I don't remember exactly what it was word for word, but basically it was saying, how can you help someone else in their darkest and toughest moments if you're not even comfortable sitting in your own? And so I just, that really resonated with me. You have to be willing to sit in your own.
Exactly. So how long is the training? It's very lengthy, I know.
So no, it honestly, it goes by quicker than you know it. I mean, so my path is I did 4 years at the University of Massachusetts in Amherst. I got my undergraduate in clinical psychology, and then I took time off. I didn't go back to school for probably 5 to 6 years. So it's not like, every path is different. I went back and I went to University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. And I got my master's in clinical psych. And then once you graduate with your master's, some people go on and get their doctorates. They can either get a PhD or they can get a PsyD. If one is more research, the PhD, the PsyD is more clinical. And then for those of us who choose not to do that, such as myself, once you get your master's, you take a state exam. The exam allows you to be able to practice on your own, and then you're able to practice on your own. So it can be lengthy, but the graduate course was probably 3 years for me. And so I always tell people, they're long days, but they go by, it really isn't that long. In 3 years, I look back and I think about, things that the time I spent not doing anything. So it is a lot, but it's definitely doable, and it's worth it if that's your passion.
Awesome, right? So it's lengthy and worth it and rewarding.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So last question I have for you is, how are you doing?
When I tell you, this is so healing, doing things like this, talking with you, connecting with someone who I've known, for, geez, how long? 10 plus years. Right. Like that is the biggest thing. And so it's sometimes when people ask me that, especially in this time, I'm almost, I feel bad almost answering, but I'm thriving. I'm doing well. I'm at peace.
Right.
And I don't say that to say that it's just that easy. I have rough days. Again, I'm home with the 3-year-olds, and I'm trying to still work and navigate that. I think the biggest thing and the thing that I'm hoping that, I can relay to my clients is that I am being intentional about it. So I wake up, I have a routine. I wake up, I work out, I meditate, I pray, I take deep breaths, I connect with myself. I detach from my phone. I detach from the computer when I can. I lean into moments with my daughter where it's just us, and we're able to enjoy coloring and the simple things. And so I'm so thankful that I am doing well during this time, but I really attribute it to not watching too much TV and filling myself with positive people and letting go of toxic people. And so yeah, no, I appreciate it, but I definitely am I'm feeling blessed. I'm feeling happy that I can help others that might not be feeling that way. And yeah, it's definitely been an interesting time as anxieties surface. I tackle them head on, and then when I feel that anxiety coming on, I do all the things that replenish me and self-care, and then I one day at a time I go back to it. Tomorrow's a new day, and that's kind of the mindset that I have. I'm reading more. It's interesting. People, when prior to this, there's a list of things we all want to do. If we had more time, if we only could, if we were forced to stay inside. And so I'm laughing, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to do the very things that you always say, if you had the time or if you couldn't go outside, I'd do. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But thank you. I appreciate that. How are you?
I'm good. I'm doing the same thing as you said. I'm being intentional and thriving. So things that, of course, I didn't have time to do, like this interview that we're having. I've been trying to get this off the ground for a while, and it was just a bit difficult finding filming locations and getting everyone together. But now we have this new technology, like you said. We've discovered so many new things during this time. So I'm glad I'm able to do this as well.
No, and thank you. We need this. Like, this is so
Yeah,
important. And watching you and your career and your path and literally growing as women together.
right.
I watched your previous interview,
Mhm.
and just the places you're going. It's so needed. So thank you for doing this.
Thank you. So key points that I've taken away from this interview, and I hope the viewers have too, is be intentional about this time. Don't compare yourself to others. Self-care and thrive.
Absolutely.
Basically, those four things will be what you need to succeed now, and after this is over, because something like this will happen again. I'm
Absolutely.
sure.
No, and that's the thing. I think people are, because we've never seen it and most of the people living today never have. We have to remember that, there have been other pandemics. There have been other, circumstances, maybe not exactly like this, but
Mhm.
definitely similar. My parents were reminiscing to me about polio and how scary that was. And so I definitely appreciate you saying that, and kind of ending it on that note, that one is comfort that we're all in this together, and
Mhm.
two, that we will come out of this because we have before. We're humans, we evolve, and absolutely.
Awesome.
All
Thank
right.
you
Thank
so
you. I
much,
appreciate you.
Tamera. So this is awesome. It's excellent. I really enjoyed this. I'm sure the viewers will too. And we just want to thank you for being here with us today, because I know your time is precious. You are a busy woman. So this is just an honor for you to be here with us. And I'm so happy. Thank you so much. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in. If you'd like to find Tamara, if you are in the New England area and you'd like to go and see her, we'll put all of her information in the information box, and you can reach out to her. And I'm sure she'll like that as well. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank
Thank
you for
you.
tuning in, and you guys have a good day.